Stars filled the black sky like frozen sparks. The outer borders of the galaxy empire stretched silent and wide, guarded by patrol ships that moved in perfect formation. Nothing ever changed here. The scanners hummed quietly, the same as every day until one night everything stopped. Every signal across the border froze at once. The lights on the control deck dimmed, screens blinked, and the crew stared in silence as a single line of static appeared on every radar. Then slowly, something began to form in the distortion. Captain Lurek stood on the deck of the border defense ship Valen Prime. His crew waited for his command, but no one could speak. The image on the screen became sharper, an enormous object drifting out of the void. It had no identification code, no energy signature that matched any known design. The ship was dark, silent, and shaped like a long blade cutting through the stars. It did not transmit any signal. It did not answer hails. It simply hung in space, unmoving. Across the system, alarms began to echo. Empire stations started scanning the unknown vessel. The results made no sense. The hull seemed to be made of some alloy that absorbed light. The readings showed energy levels deeper than any known reactor, yet completely stable. One officer whispered that the ship might be abandoned, but Captain Lurek knew better. No derelict ship held this kind of presence. Even from millions of kilometers away, it felt alive. "Open communication channel," Lurek ordered quietly. His voice broke the silence. The communication officer tried several frequencies, sending the standard greetings in multiple languages: Galactic Standard, Trade Tongue, even Old Imperial. There was no reply. The screen only showed the dark ship slowly rotating, its edges glinting under the distant sunlight. The Empire had seen many strange ships, but never one that made even the machines hesitate. At the same time, deep in a hidden outpost orbiting a forgotten moon, a human listening station picked up the same signal. Lieutenant Alina Rhodes stared at the data streaming across her console. Her heart began to pound. She knew that pattern, those faint energy waves hidden inside the static. It was human technology, but far beyond anything humanity had ever officially built. She whispered, "No way. That can't be us." Then she opened a secure channel and transmitted a coded message to Earth Command. Back on the Empire border, the command fleet gathered. Hundreds of ships surrounded the unknown object at a safe distance. Drones moved closer, recording every detail. The feed came in clear. The vessel was massive, 10 times the size of a dreadnought. Along its hull were marks, symbols that looked worn, almost ancient. No alien language could explain them. To the Empire officers, they looked meaningless. To humans, those faint shapes might tell another story. The Emperor himself was informed. Reports said that an unidentified ship had entered Empire space without authorization, without warning, and without using any known jump route. The Empire had ruled for centuries, controlling entire star clusters, but now the entire command center fell quiet. For the first time in generations, they faced something they could not classify. The Emperor's order was simple: observe, do not engage. The longer the ship stayed silent, the stronger the unease grew. Every station reported strange fluctuations in local gravity fields. The unknown ship wasn't moving, but the space around it seemed to bend ever so slightly, like the universe was adjusting to its presence. When the patrol ships tried to scan deeper, their systems overheated. The readings returned impossible numbers, gravitational distortions at near black hole levels, yet perfectly stable. It was a paradox. Lieutenant Rhodes watched from her human post as Earth Command finally responded. Their message was short: do not approach. Maintain distance. The ship may be one of ours. Her eyes widened. One of ours? How could that be? Humanity had never built anything that could travel this deep into Empire territory unnoticed. Unless it was one of the old lost projects from before the wars. One of the ships that vanished in experimental drives. She remembered the stories from the Academy about the ARC program, humanity's last attempt at deep-fold travel. All prototypes had disappeared without trace. Could this be one of them, returning home after centuries? Meanwhile, on the Empire bridge, Captain Lurek stared at the dark vessel and felt a strange calm. The unknown didn't feel hostile. It just existed, still and waiting. Then suddenly, light rippled across its surface. The black metal shimmered like water, and a circular glow formed near its center. Every ship in the fleet raised shields, weapons locked, ready for command. But the unknown ship didn't attack. Instead, it sent a single transmission, a signal so old that the Empire's translation systems failed to decode it. The message repeated 3 times, calm and patient, in a language long forgotten. On the human outpost, Lieutenant Rhodes decoded it first. Her heart froze as she read the translated line. Terran exploration vessel, requesting identification update. It wasn't an alien ship. It was human. A relic from the time when humanity still dreamed of the stars and dared to go beyond known space. A ship that had vanished into myth had just returned, right in the heart of the most powerful alien empire in the galaxy. Captain Lurek stood motionless, not understanding the message that echoed through space. But he could feel its weight, the power behind that quiet signal. The Empire's fleet waited for his command, but no one dared move. For the first time in centuries, fear touched the hearts of those who ruled the stars. In the human outpost, Rhodes whispered into her mic, "It's us. It's really us." And somewhere deep within the dark ship, a light turned on, like an ancient heart remembering how to beat. The Empire fleet hovered in a tense ring around the unidentified ship. Every sensor was pointed toward it, but nothing new appeared. The object floated in stillness, wrapped in that faint blue aura, as if it existed half inside this universe and half somewhere else. Captain Lurek had stopped issuing orders. There was nothing left to command. Every protocol he knew failed to explain what he saw. No radiation, no heat trail, no life signs, yet something alive was there. Hours passed, though no one could tell. The Empire's best physicists argued over data streams, their voices breaking the heavy silence of the control chamber. Some said the ship was a trap left by a rival civilization. Others believed it was a natural phenomenon, a piece of space-time folded into a physical form. But the young officers felt something different, a quiet human instinct whispering that this thing was watching them back. Then the unknown ship moved. Just a few meters, a slow drift forward, but the motion made every ship in the fleet jolt to combat readiness. Turrets rotated, shields flared, pilots gripped controls. But before any command could be given, the halo around the ship pulsed once, sending a shockwave of harmless light through the void. The wave spread across every hull, turning the stars momentarily white. Then the light vanished, and with it, every system across the fleet went offline. Engines died, scanners froze, even life support indicators blinked out. Lurek's heart pounded. He could hear nothing but his own breath. The great Empire fleet, the most powerful force in the known galaxy, was silent, frozen in the wake of one single ship. Moments later, systems rebooted one by one. Lights flickered back. Screens lit again. Power returned, but something fundamental had changed. The unknown vessel was now gone from every radar. It had moved closer without a trace of motion, standing directly in front of Valen Prime. Through the observation window, Lurek could see it now with his own eyes. The ship's hull gleamed faintly with faint markings, shapes too geometric to be natural, too elegant to be alien. They were letters, unknown to him but somehow haunting. He felt as if he had seen them before, perhaps in some ancient museum archive of forgotten species. "Captain," his first officer whispered, "it's sending a signal again." The transmission arrived not as sound, not as light, but as a pattern directly imprinted into the ship's systems. A simple line of text scrolled across the central console. "We come from Earth, permission to approach." The words meant nothing to most of the bridge crew. To them, Earth was not even a known system. But Lurek felt an ache deep in his chest. The language was Old Galactic, a root dialect only used in lost colonies. He looked at the screen again, then at the dark shape outside, and said softly, "Translate again. Confirm origin." The translator confirmed, steady and sure, "Human." The word sent ripples through the command deck. "Human?" Someone repeated in disbelief. That species was wiped out before the third expansion. Their worlds were destroyed, another officer frowned. Or they disappeared on their own. No one ever proved it. Lurek turned toward the window again. If that was true, then what was this ship doing here, alive and speaking? He felt the history of the Empire shifting under his feet. Meanwhile, at the human listening post, Lieutenant Alina Rhodes received the same transmission seconds later. The signal hit her console like a hammer of hope. She rerouted it through 3 decryption layers and confirmed it was genuine. The identifier attached to the message, Arc Carrier 01 Dawnstar. Her jaw dropped. The Dawnstar had been lost 2 centuries ago during a test of the fold engine. It was humanity's first deep space flagship, designed to break the barrier of distance and time. No wreckage had ever been found. Until now. Her fingers shook as she opened a secure channel to Earth Command. Arc 01 has been located. It's active. It's inside Empire territory. The reply came after long minutes. Impossible. The fold drive failed. Confirm visual evidence. I have it, she said, her voice trembling, and it's broadcasting in pre-unification code. They're alive. Across the galaxy, the Empire's fleets were repositioning. Hundreds of ships had been dispatched toward the border zone, each carrying orders to either detain or destroy the intruder if it advanced. But the unidentified ship didn't move aggressively. Instead, it began transmitting what looked like coordinates. Unknown to the Empire, those coordinates pointed not to a war target, but to an ancient route once mapped by humans long ago, paths the Empire never discovered because they were too dangerous for conventional travel. The Galactic Emperor watched the live feed from his grand hall. "How did this ship enter our space?" he demanded. His advisors bowed low, none daring to speak. The Emperor's voice grew cold. "If this thing carries unknown power, it must not reach our core systems." He raised a hand and said the words that made the stars tremble. "Prepare the purge." Dozens of battlecruisers began charging their main cannons. Each one could vaporize a moon. They locked onto the unknown ship and waited for the order. Captain Lurek, watching from his bridge, felt his throat tighten. He knew firing on this vessel might provoke something far beyond understanding. "Your Majesty," he said into the comm channel, "we don't understand what we're dealing with. Recommend restraint." "Silence," the Emperor interrupted. "The Empire fears nothing." Lurek's words caught in his chest. For a heartbeat, he thought he saw movement inside the unknown ship. A silhouette behind the glass of what looked like a command bridge. The outline of a human. In the next instant, the Empire fired. Thousands of beams of plasma energy lit the void. The explosion bloomed across the stars in blinding light. Every ship on the border was pushed back by the shockwave. But when the light cleared, the unidentified vessel still floated unharmed. The beams had bent around it, redirected as though reality itself refused to touch it. The halo surrounding it pulsed again, brighter this time, and every ship's reactor shut down simultaneously. The voice that followed echoed through every communication band, calm and clear, spoken in pure galactic standard. "This sector is under Terran protection. Stand down." No one had heard that phrase in 1,000 years. Captain Lurek stood frozen. His heart pounded as he whispered, "Terran? That means human." Far across the stars, Alina Rhodes watched the same feed and whispered, "They're back." And somewhere inside that ancient vessel, a voice answered her through the static, old, human, and calm. "Lieutenant Rhodes, mission complete, returning home." The universe itself seemed to hold its breath. Silence ruled the void after that transmission. The Empire's mighty armada floated like statues across the starlit sea, powerless and adrift. Every system was frozen, every engine quiet. The unknown ship, now known as the Terran Arc carrier Dawnstar, glowed faintly, surrounded by a field that distorted light itself. For a moment, even gravity seemed to hesitate. Captain Lurek's crew stared in disbelief at the impossible. No weapon had worked, no defense mattered. One ship had paralyzed an empire. The bridge of Valen Prime was filled with low murmurs. "How can it speak our language?" one officer whispered. Another asked, "Terran, that means human, doesn't it?" The word felt strange on their tongues, old and forbidden. To the Empire, humans were a myth, a species that burned bright and vanished long ago, erased by their own wars. But now the evidence floated before them, undeniable and silent. Lurek stood motionless, his eyes fixed on the ship's hull. He saw new light patterns forming, lines that curved across the surface, drawing intricate circuits that seemed alive. They pulsed like veins, each beat synchronized with the faint hum now echoing through the comm systems. "Open a channel again," Lurek ordered softly. "Maybe they'll respond this time." The comm officer hesitated but obeyed. A static burst filled the bridge, followed by a voice. Calm, measured, human. "This is Captain Elias Ward of the Terran exploration vessel Dawnstar. We mean no harm. Requesting verification of current galactic authority." Every officer froze. The voice was deep and steady, but it carried a hint of confusion as though the speaker didn't understand the time that had passed. Lurek leaned closer to the mic. This is Captain Lurek of the Imperial Border Fleet. You have entered restricted space. Identify your species and purpose. There was a pause. Then the human captain replied, Species, human. Mission, return from Fold Exploration Route 72. Request docking and contact with Home Command. The Empire's command center erupted into chaos. Data analysts shouted over each other. Fold Exploration Route? Those haven't existed for thousands of cycles. Home Command? They think the humans still run this sector. The Emperor demanded a direct link to Valen Prime. His hologram flickered to life before Lurek, radiating controlled fury. You will not speak to this. Relic, he said coldly. We will dissect it. Seize the vessel immediately. But Majesty, Lurek protested. Their technology disabled our entire fleet without a single weapon fired. If we act rashly, silence, thundered the Emperor. They will kneel or they will burn. As the connection cut, Lurek stared at the empty hologram, his hands trembling. He had seen arrogance destroy many fleets before, but this felt different. This wasn't a rival power. This was something ancient, something that had seen the birth of stars. Meanwhile, aboard the Dawn Star, Captain Ward and his crew watched the Empire's ships reposition. They're charging weapons again, said Lieutenant Nova Hayes. Her hands hovered over the holographic controls, ready to raise the ship's defense fields. Ward shook his head. No, we wait. His gaze drifted toward the massive holographic display showing the galaxy around them. It looked different. The familiar human trade routes were gone. New star systems bore strange alien names. Humanity's signal beacons were silent. The realization hit him like gravity. We've been gone. Too long, he whispered. Back at the human outpost, Lieutenant Alina Rhodes still monitored the encrypted channel. The faint human voice that broke through had changed everything. Earth Command had gone silent after her report, likely in shock. She stared at the feed, the giant Terran ship surrounded by alien fleets. She whispered softly, "Please don't fire again." Then, she noticed something strange. A secondary signal hiding within the Dawn Star's main transmission. A coded beacon, one only humans would recognize. It pulsed every 7 seconds in a rhythm that spelled one word: home. The Empire didn't understand it, but the message rippled through old communication archives. Long dormant satellites in distant systems flickered alive, answering with echoes of light. Humanity's forgotten network, silent for centuries, had heard the call. Back at the border, Lurek's crew detected the sudden activity. "Sir, unidentified signals are spreading across multiple sectors," the officer said. "Thousands of pings, all from ancient channels." Lurek frowned. "Not enemy reinforcements?" "Unknown, Captain. They're not Imperial frequencies. They're old. Pre-expansion era old." Lurek turned toward the view window again. "Whatever this ship is," he said quietly, "it just woke something bigger than the Empire." The Emperor's voice boomed again through the fleet channel. "Fire when ready." Energy surged through the battlecruisers. Their cannons charged, forming enormous glowing spheres of plasma. The stars dimmed beneath their light. And then every reactor failed again. One by one, every Imperial ship shut down, lights fading into blackness. On Valen Prime, only emergency power remained. Then the Dawn Star's voice echoed across every comm in the sector. "Do not attempt aggression. This field is defensive only. We seek dialogue, not destruction." Lurek stared at the glowing ship, then spoke into his mic. "Captain Ward, what do you want?" There was a brief silence before the human voice replied, steady but tinged with sadness. "To know what happened to our people." Those words hit like gravity. For the first time, the Empire officers realized these humans weren't conquerors. They were survivors. Explorers who had outlived their own civilization, lost in time. Lurek felt a strange respect bloom in his chest. "The humans are gone," he said quietly. "Extinct, or so we believed." Ward's voice came through again, softer now. "Then this galaxy is quieter than we left it." Far across the stars, Alina Rhodes' station detected a surge of energy from the Dawn Star. The ship wasn't charging weapons, where it was broadcasting something. A wave of encoded data spread across subspace, unlocking old human archives buried in forgotten systems. Blueprints, history logs, music, and voices, everything humanity once was, burst back into existence. For the first time in centuries, human words echoed across alien space. The Empire ships, powerless and adrift, watched helplessly as the signal traveled faster than light. Civilizations across the galaxy would soon hear the same haunting broadcast. A voice from humanity's past saying, "We are not gone. We remember." Lurek's second officer whispered, "They're rewriting history." "No," Lurek said, his eyes fixed on the shining ship. "They're reminding it." And somewhere deep within the Dawnstar's bridge, Captain Ward closed his eyes. The stars outside flickered brighter, as if the universe itself was listening. "If anyone still remembers Earth," he whispered, "we're coming home." The signal from the Dawnstar spread like a storm of light across the galaxy. Entire star clusters lit up as dormant satellites and forgotten probes flickered to life. Some were ancient human machines, half buried in alien territory, while others were scavenged and repurposed by civilizations that never knew their origin. Each one now awoke, repeating the same calm message. Terran presence confirmed. Humanity endures. In the Empire's capital system, panic moved faster than logic. Communication hubs overflowed with reports. Foreign data floods, corrupted archives, false identification codes. Imperial scientists shouted about cyber intrusion, while priests whispered of resurrection myths. The word human hadn't been spoken in centuries, yet it now echoed through command halls and Senate chambers. The Emperor demanded control, but even his voice trembled when the oldest Imperial databases began to unlock themselves, revealing files marked with a long-forgotten emblem, a blue and white sphere surrounded by laurel leaves. The symbol of Earth, out at the border. Captain Lurek watched the display screens on Valen Prime. Every frequency, every communication beam, every satellite in range now carried fragments of old human transmissions, songs, navigation codes, and journal entries from colonists who had died long before the Empire's rise. It wasn't an attack. It was a reminder of what came before. "They're not conquering us," Lurek murmured. "They're waking their ghosts." Inside the Dawnstar, Captain Elias Ward stood on the observation deck surrounded by his crew. His officers were silent, staring at the vast field of stars that shimmered under the ship's projection array. "These coordinates," said Lieutenant Hayes, "they used to mark Terran colonies. But look, some of them are gone. Entire systems missing." She pointed at empty spaces where bright dots should have been. Ward's jaw tightened. "How long have we been gone?" The AI voice of the Dawnstar, smooth and neutral, answered, "Fold misalignment duration 1,762 Terran years." The room fell silent. The number hung in the air like gravity. They hadn't traveled across space, they had skipped across time. Hayes looked at Ward. "Sir, there's no command left to report to. Earth might not even exist," Ward didn't reply. His eyes drifted to a holographic image of Earth, blue and whole as it was when they left. "Then we find out what became of home," he said quietly. Meanwhile, the Empire's reinforcements were arriving. 3 entire fleets under Admiral Kethar, known across the galaxy for his ruthless precision. His ships formed a perimeter around the Dawnstar, engines burning white-hot, weapons primed. When he appeared on Lurek's comm screen, his expression was cold and sharp. "You failed to contain the intruder, Captain," Lurek tried to explain. "Sir, our weapons had no effect. The ship neutralized." "I didn't ask for excuses," Kethar interrupted. "That vessel threatens the Emperor's dominion. We will dismantle it and learn its secrets." Lurek's stomach turned. He had seen power before, but not like this. "Sir, if you fire again, we may provoke something we can't understand." Kethar's eyes hardened. "If they're human, they're extinct. This is a machine wearing their skin." The transmission cut off. Inside the Dawnstar, Hayes saw the new ships forming. "They're charging up again," she said. Ward stood calm at the center of the bridge. "Activate the mirror field." The Dawnstar's hull shimmered. The halo surrounding it split into 12 arcs, each rotating independently. When the Empire's fleets fired, their beams curved mid-space, twisting back toward their own ships like serpents of fire. Energy bolts collided in dazzling bursts. Battleships broke formation. Communications drowned in static and panic. The Dawnstar had not fired once, yet the Empire's own aggression destroyed half its front line in seconds. Admiral Kethar's ship spun from the explosion wave. His crew screamed as consoles burst into flame. "Impossible," he shouted. "What kind of weapon is that?" Ward watched quietly. "Not a weapon," he said. "A reflection. It returns only what it receives. When the chaos ended, only Lurek's ship remained near enough to hail. His voice cracked over the comm. "Captain Ward, you could destroy us all. Why don't you?" Ward looked into the camera, his expression calm but heavy with something deeper than anger. "Because destruction is why we vanished. We made this ship to explore, not to conquer. If your empire has forgotten that, perhaps it's time someone reminded you." Lurek swallowed. "You talk like we're children compared to you." Ward's tone softened. "Not children. Descendants, maybe." At that moment, the Emperor's personal fleet entered the system. Hundreds of royal carriers surrounded both ships, blocking every exit. The Emperor himself appeared on every Imperial screen. His golden armor gleamed as he raised a hand. "You are an abomination of a dead race," he declared. "The Empire will erase you as it erased them." Ward sighed, his gaze distant. "History always repeats itself when no one remembers." He gave a quiet command. "Project Memory Field." The Dawnstar's hull opened, and a wave of light surged outward. It wasn't a weapon. It was a memory. Images filled the void between the ships, holograms of humanity's past, cities glittering under blue skies, astronauts shaking hands with alien diplomats, starships launching from Earth's surface, children laughing beneath sunlight. The Empire's soldiers stared, their minds struck silent by the sheer beauty of it. Then the images darkened. Wars, fire, silence, and the stars closing in. Ward's voice filled every frequency. "We destroyed ourselves once. We won't let others do it again." Even the Emperor's expression faltered. For the first time in his reign, doubt cracked his mask. "You are nothing but ghosts." Ward's reply was calm and final. "Ghosts still remember how to build the light." The Dawnstar's field expanded once more. Instead of fire, it emitted a soft blue pulse. Imperial weapons melted. Engines shut down without damage. The ships floated harmlessly, their crews alive but powerless. The humans aboard the Dawnstar watched in silence as the glow faded, leaving behind only peace. Captain Lurek felt tears burning in his eyes. He had seen defeat before, but this was different. This was awe. "What are you going to do now?" he asked. Ward looked through the viewing glass, past the ships, past the Empire's broken pride, and into the stars. "We'll search for the echo of our world," he said, "and if it still breathes, we'll light the way home." The galaxy, for the first time in ages, stood still. The aftermath of the light wave left the galaxy in stunned silence. The once mighty Imperial fleet floated powerless, thousands of ships adrift, their weapons cooled, their reactors silent. Across the darkness, the only vessel still aglow was the Terran arc carrier Dawnstar, hovering with quiet purpose, its hull reflecting the faint shimmer of dying stars. The ship's presence felt less like a weapon and more like a truth revealed, something older, deeper, and far beyond the Empire's understanding. Captain Lurek stood at the viewport of Valen Prime, staring at the human ship. His crew whispered behind him, voices trembling between fear and wonder. Some called it a myth. Others called it divine. But none could look away. "How can something from a dead species be this alive?" murmured his first officer. Lurek didn't answer. He could only watch, sensing that the moment they were living would be remembered for centuries. Inside the Dawnstar, Captain Ward and his crew worked in calm silence. The bridge hummed with faint energy, old systems awakening one by one. Lieutenant Hayes monitored the scans. "Sir, the Empire fleet is down to minimal power. They're trying to reboot their core reactors, but the quantum locks are still engaged." Ward nodded. "They'll recover soon enough." That was a warning, not punishment. Hayes hesitated. "Sir, are we sure they'll see it that way?" Ward's gaze lingered on the endless stars outside. "They've seen what they could become if they forget what they are." His voice softened. "The question is, will they learn?" Far across the system, the Emperor's ship remained motionless. The ruler of trillions sat alone in his throne chamber, surrounded by dying holograms of his broken fleets. His reflection shimmered across the gold-trimmed walls. "Humans," he whispered bitterly. "The ghosts of Earth rise again." He clenched his fists, veins pulsing under his skin. No ghost defies the Empire. He rose and gave a single command: activate the Dark Star Array. Hidden deep in the Empire's core worlds, colossal platforms stirred. These were not mere weapons. They were ancient planetary forges capable of summoning gravitational singularities. The Empire had never dared to use them. Until now. Each one began to pulse with black energy, tearing small cracks into the fabric of space itself. On the Dawn Star, Lieutenant Hayes caught the readings first. "Captain, I'm detecting energy surges across multiple sectors. Massive gravitational distortion. The Empire's activating something we've never seen before." Ward's eyes hardened. "They're trying to destroy us with their own star." "Can they do that?" she asked. "Maybe," Ward replied. "But the question isn't if they can destroy us, it's what else they'll destroy trying." The Dawn Star's AI voice filled the bridge. "Recommendation: retreat or disable enemy infrastructure to prevent system-wide collapse." Ward exhaled slowly. "Prepare the fold pulse." Outside, the halo around the Dawn Star brightened, forming 3 concentric rings. Waves of shimmering blue energy rippled outward, traveling faster than light. The ripples touched the space near the dark star arrays, and the impossible happened. The gravitational distortion stopped. Time itself seemed to pause within those regions. Every reactor, every generator connected to the array froze mid-cycle, suspended in a fraction of a second. Then, as if rewound by unseen hands, the space fabric healed. The energy was gone. The Empire's doomsday weapon had been erased from existence. On the Imperial command bridge, chaos erupted. "It's impossible," shouted the technicians. "The arrays never even detonated, they were just undone." The Emperor stood still, his fury boiling beneath cold composure. "Find me that ship's core," he growled. "I want its secrets, its engines, its heart, everything." Meanwhile, on the Dawn Star, Ward turned toward the navigation screen. "Set course for Sol sector." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. "Sir, you think Earth might still exist?" Hayes asked. Ward nodded slowly. "Every star we've seen remembers its light. Maybe Earth does too." Across the Empire, confusion turned to curiosity. News spread faster than fear. Civilians on distant worlds watched the intercepted transmissions. The human ship glowing like a second sun, the Emperor's weapons failing, the sky filled with memory. To some, the humans became saviors. To others, omens. Pilgrims began whispering prayers to the returners. Artists painted murals of the ship. Even Imperial scholars dared to question their history. What if humanity had not vanished but simply gone beyond? On the border, Captain Lurick stood before his officers. "We're following them," he said firmly. "We need to know who they are and why they came back." His crew hesitated, but he added, "For once, we don't fight what we fear. We learn from it." As Valen Prime moved closer to the Dawn Star, the human ship sent a signal. Not a command, but an invitation. The message displayed on every Imperial screen: "Approach without weapons. Knowledge is not an enemy." Lurick took a breath. "Engage docking sequence." The 2 ships drew near, their shadows crossing over the glowing rim of a distant sun. When the docking clamp sealed, a wave of light passed between them, creating a temporary atmosphere corridor. For the first time in history, a human stepped into the Empire's world again. Captain Ward walked across the corridor, his boots echoing softly on metallic flooring. His uniform was simple, dark blue with a silver insignia, an emblem of Earth long forgotten. Lurick met him halfway, breath tight with disbelief. "You're real," he said quietly. "I thought your kind was a story." Ward's expression was calm, almost sad. "So did we once." They stood there facing each other, 2 species separated by centuries yet bound by curiosity. Lurick studied Ward's eyes. They weren't cold or proud like the Empire's elite. They carried something different, something the galaxy had lost: empathy. "What are you going to do?" Lurick asked. Ward looked through the docking window toward the endless stars. "Find the truth about what happened to us. If Earth still turns, we'll go home. If not," he paused, then smiled faintly, "then maybe we'll build another one." Lurick nodded slowly, the weight of centuries pressing on him. "If your people return, the Empire won't let you live free." Ward met his gaze. "Then maybe the Empire should remember freedom first." Behind them, the stars shimmered as the Dawn Star's engines reawakened. The giant vessel began to turn toward the galactic core, its engines glowing like dawn breaking through eternal night. Far away in the Emperor's chamber, alarms rang again. "They're moving toward the ancient sectors," a voice said. The Emperor's eyes darkened. "Let them. If they seek ghosts, they will find them." The chase for Earth had begun. The Dawn Star moved through the void with steady purpose, cutting across the galaxy like a quiet flame. Its blue halo left faint trails through the starlight. drawing curious signals from every listening post in its wake. Word had already spread to the farthest systems. The lost humans had returned. Some called them angels from before time. Others whispered they were architects of forgotten power. Yet to Captain Ward, they were simply travelers trying to find their way home. Behind them, the Empire stirred. Fleets rebuilt, leaders argued, and fear dressed itself as strategy. The Emperor, humiliated before the eyes of his own people, ordered a pursuit fleet of 200 warships. He named it the Retribution Line. At its head flew Admiral Cathar, his pride wounded but his will sharpened like a blade. No ghost outruns the Empire, he vowed, and his ships thundered into hyperspace. Meanwhile, Captain Lurek's vessel, Valen Prime, remained close behind the Dawnstar, not as an enemy, but as a witness. His crew, once loyal to every Imperial command, now questioned the world they served. Lurek had changed since meeting Ward face to face. He saw in the man's calm eyes something his empire had lost centuries ago: restraint, compassion, and a strange kind of strength that didn't come from fear. On the bridge of the Dawnstar, Lieutenant Hayes monitored energy spikes. "We're picking up warp disturbances," she said. "Empire fleet approaching from 6 different vectors." Ward didn't look up. "Cathar?" "Yes, sir," she replied. "He's coming fast. They'll intercept us within minutes." Ward straightened. "Bring up the stellar map. Route us through the Persean Rift." Hayes frowned. "That region's unstable. Gravitational tides could crush even our shields." Ward nodded once. "Then they'll crush anyone who follows." Outside, the Dawnstar turned gracefully, its halo shimmering brighter as the fold engines began to hum. The void around it distorted, bending like liquid glass. Lurek's ship followed cautiously, keeping distance. His second officer hesitated. "Sir, that's the rift. No one comes back from there." Lurek stared at the glowing ship ahead. "No one has ever entered it with faith instead of fear," he said quietly. "Follow them." As the Dawnstar entered the rift, the stars warped. Colors stretched and folded into each other, and the emptiness became alive with motion. Tendrils of light brushed against the hull, ancient energy currents whispering through the metal. Hayes whispered, "It's like flying through memory itself." Ward smiled faintly. "It is." The fold drive was never meant to cross space, and it was built to cross time's echo. The rift remembers everything that ever was. Lurek's ship trembled under the pressure. The crew's instruments spun wild, sensors failing to read even their own coordinates. "We're losing signal," shouted the communications officer. "I can't tell what's real anymore." "Then stop fighting it," Lurek said calmly. "Let the stars decide where we're meant to go." For what felt like hours or perhaps moments, reality itself shimmered. Through the viewport, both crews saw visions, flashes of human cities on alien worlds, ancient empires rising and collapsing in silence, the slow drift of generations across light years. The rift was not death. It was remembrance. Then, as suddenly as it began, everything stopped. The stars reappeared, bright and sharp. Space returned to stillness. The Dawnstar emerged first, followed by Valen Prime, both unharmed. But what they saw made every soul aboard hold their breath. Before them hung a planet, blue, white, and gold. Oceans glittered under a sun they both recognized. Clouds swirled over continents that had once been drawn on ancient maps. It was Earth, or what was left of it. Hayes spoke first, her voice trembling. "It's real, sir." "It's still here." Ward didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the image. The planet was whole but silent. No orbital beacons, no satellites, no transmission noise, just wind, water, and light. "Set course for orbit," he said softly. As the Dawnstar descended, faint traces of artificial structure became visible. Massive rings circling the planet, half ruined, half buried in ice and debris. The remains of a defense grid built long ago. Hayes scanned further. "No active life signals," she said, "but there are power readings on the surface. Very faint, deep underground." Ward leaned forward. "Mark the coordinates." The ships entered low orbit, engines quiet, hulls gliding through clouds like ghosts returning to their cradle. From orbit, they saw cities beneath forests, metal skeletons of towers poking through overgrown green. The once great lights of humanity were now just echoes beneath sunlight. Ward stood silently for a long time. "We made this world beautiful," he said finally, "and we burned it trying to own it." Lurek's voice crackled over the comm. "Is this truly where you came from?" Ward nodded. The beginning of all of us. Yours too, in a way. Then why did you leave? Lurek asked quietly. Ward's gaze darkened. Because we thought we could become gods. The universe reminded us we were only human. On the Dawn Star, Hayes reported, Sir, the underground signal's growing stronger. It's responding to us. Ward's pulse quickened. Patch it through. The speakers filled with a soft hum, then a voice, synthetic yet warm. Welcome home, Terran vessel Dawn Star. Planetary Archive awakening. The bridge fell silent. The voice continued. This world has waited 1,162 years for your return. Humanity's legacy is preserved. Do you wish to restore? Ward's throat tightened. He looked around at his crew. None spoke. Every heart in the room felt the weight of the moment, the chance to resurrect a civilization or let it rest. Ward closed his eyes. Restore partial systems. Let the planet breathe again, but not the wars we left behind. The ship transmitted a sequence. The rings around Earth began to shimmer faintly, dust scattering into the upper atmosphere like golden snow. Lights flickered across the ruins below, not fires, but beacons. Machines long silent hummed back to life. 1,000 years of stillness began to move. From orbit, Valen Prime's crew watched in awe as Earth glowed softly beneath them, its oceans turning from gray to blue. One of the younger officers whispered, They're waking the planet. Lurek nodded. No, he said softly. They're healing it. At that same moment, far across the galaxy, Admiral Kethar's pursuit fleet emerged from hyperspace. They had tracked the Dawn Star through the rift, though most ships had been torn apart by its storms. The few that survived now arrived before Earth, battered, scorched, and desperate. Kethar's voice burned through the comms. You've reached the end of your journey, humans. Prepare to be erased. Ward looked up calmly. You've already seen what happens when you try. This time, Kethar said, voice trembling with pride, we brought something older than you. Behind him, colossal shadows unfolded, massive black monoliths pulsing with crimson light. The Emperor's final weapon had arrived.